Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited you can be here. Today, we're going to get your mindset right. And I mean, we have got the king to be able to help us do that. So, we're going to actually talk about creating a successful mindset that actually lasts and helps you build a seven-figure business, an eight-figure business, and even beyond. Look, so much of it is in your head. And if we can get past that, then you're really on a successful track to be able to build the kind of business that you want, which gives you the final freedom, the financial freedom that you're really searching for. So, with us today is Dr. Noah St. John. Now, he's actually known as the worldwide as the father of affirmations and the mental health coach to the stars. Now, he helps Hollywood celebrities, also professional athletes and CEOs remove that head trash that and also boost performance and grow profits without sacrificing well-being. So in 1997, he actually discovered the breakthrough AFFORMATIONS Method, a science-based technique for reprogramming the mind through empowering questions along with success anorexia. And we're going to be diving into all that, the hidden condition behind self-sabotage and burnout. And these insights led to his Power Habits system, which has helped clients generate more than $2.7 billion in sales. Look, he's been featured everywhere. Been on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Entrepreneur, and Success as well. And his proven frameworks basically combine psychology. They also combine mindset and performance strategy to help leaders and organizations unleash their full potential with clarity, confidence, and balance. Dr. Noah St. John, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here, Ty.
Yeah, I'm really excited you can be here. You've discovered a lot of cool things that
hmm
have figured out like why we are not succeeding. So, what kind of led you down this path to begin with?
I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. And I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community, and the have-nots was my family. Now, we've all heard motivational speakers, they'll get on stage and they'll say, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So no, it wasn't happy. It sucked. So from a very young age, I said, I hate being poor. And I knew that there was another way to live because right down the street, I saw there's great wealth and abundance. So I said, how the heck do I get from here to there? And of course, there was no internet or anything else back then. So I did the only thing I could think of, which is I went to the library and I read every book in the self-help section. Just all the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey. I read over 300 books in the self-help genre. And I really, really tried to apply it. But as hard as I worked, as hard as I tried, I just couldn't make it work. And so at the age of 25, I was broke. I had no money. My girlfriend had just left me. It was like a country song, but it was really true. But I said, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. And I decided to take my own life at age 25. Now, at the very last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why. And so I said, I've got to find what is my purpose here on the earth? What am I doing here? And I didn't know how to answer that question. So I went back to the library. And this time I read every book in the spiritual section. And I read hundreds of books, about how to find your life purpose. Well, fast forward 5 years later, in 1997, I had these epiphanies and I realized exactly what was missing in all those hundreds of books that I'd spent so many years reading. And no one was talking about it. And I knew because I'd read every book. And so I said, wow, I guess this is my purpose. I guess this is my message. And so I wrote my first book. It was called Permission to Succeed, which was subsequently published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. And now, all these years later, I'm actually the only author in history that's had works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale Conant, and the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. No one else on earth has ever done that. But more importantly, as you mentioned, we've helped our clients add over $3 billion collectively using my methods, my coaching methods. And so now we have one-on-one coaching, we have group coaching, we have online courses. But really, the most important thing is to help people understand that if they are holding themselves back, there really, really are solutions and frameworks that work so you don't have to hold yourself back anymore.
Yeah, I love that. I love the story. I mean, powerful ending to where you were so lost to now being able to help so many people that you've helped. Now, you've got this affirmations method. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what the affirmations method is?
Yes, absolutely. And for those listening and watching, I want you to realize we're saying a new word. And I'm going to hold up one of my books. It's called The Book of Afformations, published by Hay House. And it's spelled AFFORMATIONS, Afformations, not affirmations. So you can go, by the way, you can go to afformations.com and learn more about my Afformations method. So everybody listening to this program, of course, knows what an affirmation is, right? If you've ever read a self-help book, you've heard it a million times, right? An affirmation is a statement of something you want to be true. So like I'm a business coach, an executive coach, and I'm also a keynote speaker. So I get to do keynote presentations for teams, organizations, companies all around the country and around the world. And one of the things I like to do as a keynote presenter, I will say to my audience members when I'm discussing this topic of affirmations, my affirmations method, I'll say, all right, everybody, now I want you to, we're going to use an old affirmation, like the gurus have been teaching us for decades. So I want everybody to say, I am rich, right? So everybody goes, I am rich. And you know what happens next? Everyone starts laughing. And I go, what are you laughing at? And they go, well, I'm not rich. And I say, but you just said you were. And they go, yeah, but I don't believe it. Now, isn't that the problem with the old method, right? The way we've been taught for decades is, well, you say these positive statements and, eventually it'll work. Well, guess what? We've all tried that. And for most of us, literally 75% of people, they actually end up more frustrated than before, right? So imagine if you had a phone, a smartphone that didn't work 3 out of the 4 times you went to use it. You'd probably get a new phone, wouldn't you? Right? Well, that's what I invented. I invented a new phone for your brain. And so in 1997, that was one of the epiphanies that I had when I realized that the human mind operates not with statements, but with questions. For example, if I ask you, why is the sky blue? Do you know what immediately happens in your brain? You start to search for the answer. Why is the sky blue? And maybe you don't know the answer, but it doesn't matter. You're already searching. It's called the embedded presupposition factor of the brain. It's just a fancy way of saying when you ask a question, your brain searches for the answer. So I said, why are we going around making statements that we don't believe when the human mind responds automatically to something much more powerful, the power of questions? And that's when I realized, aha, this is a new method that no one's ever talked about before. In fact, I'm the inventor of it. I'm known worldwide, as you mentioned, as the father of AFFORMATIONS. So that is my AFFORMATIONS method. It is the power of using empowering questions to immediately change your subconscious thought patterns from negative to positive.
I love it. And I love the difference between affirmations and affirmations. So give me an idea of some of those questions that we could be using.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the old way, right? So the old way is an affirmation, right? And by the way, most people don't know this, but the word affirmation comes from the Latin word firmare, which means to make firm. Now, the word affirmations that I invented, and by the way, it's perfectly legitimate to invent a new word, because when you have a new way of looking at the universe or a new technology, isn't it true? We often need a new word, right? Like Google, Facebook, YouTube, artificial intelligence. These are all new terms, relatively speaking, but now we use them every day. Well, the word affirmations that I invented comes from the Latin word formare, which means to form or give shape to. So what I often ask my coaching clients or my audience members, I will often ask them, what if you're making something firm, but it's in the wrong form? That means you formed a life you didn't even want, right? So an example of an affirmation, like I said, is I am happy, I am rich, I'm successful. And your brain goes, no, you're not, right? So we don't believe these statements. We tend not to believe these statements. So examples of my affirmations method would be, why am I so happy? Why am I so rich? Why am I always in the right place at the right time? Now, when you first start asking these questions, your brain's going to go, huh? What? But if you keep following my affirmations method, which I describe in my book of affirmations, and of course my online programs like Affirmations Advantage, and in my coaching, what it shows is that the human mind actually uses 4 modes of communication: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So what you need to do is you need to use all 4 modes of human communication. You need to read them every day, read your new affirmations. So you can read my book of affirmations, for example, and I have other books like that. You can write them. I have, for example, a Millionaire Affirmations journal that you can actually journal. You just get that on Amazon. So you can actually write them down. So you're reprogramming your subconscious mind. You want to say them out loud. right? Speak them like to your partner, your spouse, your kids. Kids love affirmations, by the way. And one of the reasons they love affirmations is because they don't have the years and years of head trash that we old folks do, right? So kids love affirmations. We have so many stories that parents and teachers have written to me and told me that, they're teaching my affirmations method in schools. They're using my books and my workbooks in schools for their kids, and they're getting better grades. They feel more confident. They have more self-esteem. It's just incredible. So you want to reading, writing, speaking, and then of course you want to listen. So when you go to my website, when you go to noahstjohn.com, you'll see that I also created something called I Afform Audios, so you can actually reprogram your subconscious thought patterns while you're not paying attention. So you can go to noahstjohn.com and you can just go into the shop and say I Afform Audios, like iTunes. And you can actually listen to them and reprogram your subconscious thought patterns while you're not even paying attention. So are just a few examples of how you can start to use my affirmations method to reprogram your subconscious mind and literally change your life.
What are some of the results you've seen when you're helping clients or your readers or the people that follow you? What were some of the success stories that you're hearing from this?
We have so many. Again, go to the website. You'll see over 200 5-star reviews of incredible success stories. I'll just give you, one or two. But I mean, like one example is I have a coaching program called the 12-Week Breakthrough, because I'm known for helping people make more in 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months while actually winning their lives back. So meaning working less and making a lot more. There was one business owner, her name's Tamisa. She's out in Arizona. And a friend referred her to me. A friend had heard me on a show like this and said, wow, this is incredible. You should check this out. Now, Tamisa was a self-described seminar junkie. That's how she described herself. She's going to all these seminars, running around. Maybe some people listening can relate to that, going to all these seminars and listen to all these gurus. And she was doing well. She's doing 6 figures in her business, but she just couldn't break through that income ceiling. She had a ceiling on her income. No matter how hard she worked, how many seminars she went to, she couldn't break through. So she decided to join my 12-week breakthrough program. Well, in the first 2 weeks, she tripled her investment. She literally tripled in 2 weeks. Not 2 months, not 2 years, 2 weeks, she tripled. And I hadn't even gotten to the money part yet. I mean, that's how powerful this is. When we're looking at this head trash that's holding so many people back, when we start to reprogram these thought patterns, boom, it can be very, very fast. So we have tons and tons of stories examples like that.
I love that. Now, we were talking about this success anorexia, and I've never heard anything like that before. So tell me a little bit more.
That was another one of the epiphanies I had in 1997. So you can see I've been doing this for 30 years now and helping, literally over 3 million people around the world. So what I realized is that just like there are people who are starving themselves of food, right? Which, we're used to hearing about eating disorders like anorexia, bulimia, and things like that, right? Well, what I realized is that just like there are millions of people who are starving themselves of food, I realized that there's also millions of people starving themselves of success. And no one had ever put it together that way before. No one had ever said that. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm starving myself of success. I was the poster child for that. That's why I shared my story earlier, that I decided to commit suicide. Well, it's pretty obvious that someone who decides to take their own life has a lot of head trash, right? And is, as I put it, starving themselves of success. So the point is that one of the symptoms of that is, for example, procrastination, right? That's one of the biggest habits that my clients come to me wanting help with. Hey, Noah, I know what to do, but I just don't do it. Well, why are you doing that, right? Why are you know exactly what you should be doing, but meanwhile, you're over here watching Netflix, or you're watching cat videos on YouTube, you're wasting your time, you're doom scrolling, whatever, right? So you're doing these other things that aren't making you money, that aren't making you more successful, but that are definitely wasting your time. See, time is the one resource we can never get back. Right? When we look at time, everybody thinks they're going to live forever. We believe that, right? But so far that hasn't worked out for anyone, right? But that's the one thing that we waste the most of. I mean, of course we, waste effort and money too, but time is the one resource we can never get back. You can always get back money and you can always get back your energy, but you can't get back time. All right. So success anorexia is the condition that I realized is causing these other behaviors. Now, what most people are doing out there is they're only looking at behaviors. Now, when you're only trying to change behavior at the level of behavior, you're not going to be successful. So, for example, let's say take that procrastination as an example. Again, number one habit that people come to me to want to change. because I know what to do and I'm not doing it. Help me. Right. So I go, okay, well, what is the thing you know you should be doing? Well, I know I should be, for example, I should be filming more videos, right? We all know as business owners, video is the number one way to get new clients, right? So I should be filming videos, but I'm scared. I don't know what to say, or blah, 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 right? A million excuses. Great. Okay, so what are you doing? Well, I'm watching Netflix. I'm watching cat videos on YouTube, whatever. Okay. All right, so what is really the fear here? Well, the fear is that you're going to be seen. Oh my gosh, what if I'm seen? Right? So do you see what I'm doing? I'm going beneath the behavior to the cause of the behavior. So what everybody else out there is doing is saying, hey, if you're procrastinating, don't procrastinate. Wow, that's so helpful. Thanks a lot. I never thought of that, right? It's like saying, hey, if you have anorexia, right? If you're not eating, if you're starving yourself, then why don't you just eat? Wow, thanks a lot. I never thought of that. You see what I mean? So these are really dumb, stupid advice, right? That's really out there, right? Hey, if you're procrastinating, don't procrastinate. Really? Thank you. That's so helpful, So we have to get below the behavior to the causal level, and that's why when we remove the cause, then the behavior takes care of itself. Like Tamisa, that example I talked about a moment ago, right? She had been up on the surface level because that's where all these gurus are. They're at the surface level. Once we got to the cause, boom, tripled in 2 weeks. So these are just a few examples.
I love that. And it sounds like, part of what you're talking about really references even people's limiting beliefs. So what are some of the most common limiting beliefs that you're running into that people have that you're helping them overcome?
It really comes down to resources, right? I talked about resources a moment ago. So what most people say is, they set a goal, right? We've all heard we got to set goals. We've heard that a million times. Set your goals, right? And guess what? That's right. We humans are goal-oriented organisms. So we're always setting goals. We're constantly thinking about, imagining, daydreaming about what it is that we want, whether it's a new car, a new house, a new job, a promotion, to launch our business, start our business, grow our business, scale our business, exit our business, whatever it might be, or a ham sandwich for lunch. We're always thinking about what it is that we want. So that's your goal, right? But the problem is people don't realize what happens after you set a goal. So, and as an example, let's say a common goal is, hey, Noah, I want to go from 10K a month to 100K a month, or I want to go from 100K to a million, or a million to 10 million, whatever it might be, right? But here's the thing that happens. Right after you set the goal, what do you say to yourself? Well, I probably can't do it. Yeah, you know what? I don't have the time. I'm too busy. I can't afford it. I don't have the money. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who to trust. Oh, I've tried everything already, and it doesn't work, and it's probably not for me. Oh, sure, it works for everyone else, but it won't work for me. You see what I just did? I literally just psyched myself out of all those things that I said I wanted, right? So that's an example, or these are a few examples of what I've been teaching and written 25 books about, which is this concept of head trash, right? Oh, I can't do it because ... And then you fill in the blank. Well, I can't do it because I don't have the time. I can't do it because I don't have the money. I can't do it because I can't afford it. I can't do it because my spouse won't let me. I can't do it because I'm a Martian. I mean, there's a million excuses. And here's the fascinating thing about head trash is you always make yourself right. If you tell yourself, well, Noah, I can't do it because I don't have the time, then guess what? You're right. You don't have the time. But meanwhile, I can come in to your business, to your life. And when let's say I'm working with you one-on-one as a coaching client, I will easily find you 1 to 3 hours per day that you're wasting. I'll give you a perfect example. I literally had a billionaire hire me. He's a billionaire. And, he heard me on one of these programs and he decided to hire me. He actually read one of my books and he said, Noah, you're the coach I've been looking for. So he hired me and so I said, okay, well, what's going on? And he goes, well, I don't really have any time. I'm so busy all the time. I said, okay, well, what are you doing? Talk to me, walk me through your day. Well, come to find out, long story short, he's doing things like answering emails, answering customer objections, answering the phone. He's literally answering the phone at his business. I'm like, you're the CEO, why are you answering the phone? He's like, well, I don't really have anybody who I could do it. Okay, do you think that might be holding you back? Do you see what I mean? So that's a perfect example of so many entrepreneurs who are listening to this program are doing what I call $10 an hour work versus you should be doing $1,000 an hour, $5,000, $10,000 an hour work. That's an example of how you're holding yourself back and you don't even realize it. That's why you need to have an objective person come in, a coach, a mentor, someone like me to come in and actually just look at what you're doing and go, wow, I never thought of that. And long story short, now, this billionaire client, I'm actually coaching him through a 9-figure exit. He's going to be selling one of his businesses, and it's going to be a very, very healthy 9-figure exit.
So I love that. And what do you find is the difference then between those people that hit these breakthroughs and the people that just stay stuck?
It's fear. Very simple. It's fear. I'm sure most people listening to this program have heard of the fact that we humans have two basic human drives, the desire to gain pleasure and the desire to avoid pain, right? So we're always moving towards pleasure and away from pain. The problem is that most people have adjusted to or accepted the level of pain that they're currently in as this is the way it's always got to be. This is the way it's always going to be. Well, take me as an example. If I had accepted that I grew up poor and I'm always going to be poor, well, we wouldn't be talking right now, right? Because I wouldn't have gone to the libraries and read every book and done all the things I've done. Now, in order to do that, I had to face a lot of pain, internal pain, because it's so much easier to just stay where you are, right? To just stay. And I'm sure we all know family members who, just kind of go along with the flow and, let's say they get a job and, they go to school. I mean, we were all taught these things that, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and then in 40 years you can retire and enjoy your life. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Who made these rules up? This is idiotic, right? Wait 40 years so I can enjoy life? What do you think I am? That, frankly, was one of the reasons I decided to take my own life, because I looked at the next 40 years of my life at age 25 and going, I don't want to be here. If this is the rules, this sucks, So now, because of the internet, and now, of course, because of AI, artificial intelligence, we all have these tools and resources at our fingertips that we never had before at any time in human history. So it's very, very important that we question those assumptions, that those just, well, of course it's that way because it's always been that way. Well, guess what? For thousands of years, humans believed the earth was flat. Well, of course it's flat, dummy. Just walk around, look outside. Of course the earth is flat. Well, in the year 600 BC, a Greek came along and realized, Eratosthenes was his name. He actually calculated that the earth is round long before Columbus. I mean, hundreds of years before Columbus. He calculated it. Eratosthenes, he goes, guys, the earth is round, right? So, but people didn't believe him, right? And same thing, if you sail to the end of the world, off the ocean, you're going to fall off the edge. And so on and so on. So the point is there's just so many assumptions we have that just aren't true. But in order to face them, you do have to be willing to go through pain.
I love that. How do you think that we kind of find some of those things that are in our head that we believe that really aren't true, but we're making ourselves believe that they are?
Well, you can read one of my books. You can go to my website. You can watch my YouTube channel. I mean, this is what I've written 25 books about. So literally, I'm the guy that came from tons of head trash. That's why I want people to realize that, it's not like I had a silver spoon in my mouth. I don't think I had a spoon at all. But my point is that, I'm the classic example of someone who did grow up in poverty and had to, but see, I had to do it all myself. I didn't have me to go to as a coach. So now everybody listening to this program has me or someone like me, to help them. There's so many more resources now than when I was growing up, right? So the point is you can read my books, you can go on my website, you can watch my videos. We have tons of free resources. And of course, we have group coaching, one-on-one coaching, online courses, and so on, to really give you that in-depth look at, okay, number one, this is why I'm holding myself back. And most importantly, these are the frameworks that really can get you out of that. I'll give you another quick example. I was talking to one of my coaching clients. His name's Charles. I asked him one question that I ask all of my coaching clients, whether it's group or one-on-one. I said, Charles, how much do you think it's going to cost you if we don't take out your head trash? In other words, if we don't get rid of these limiting beliefs. Now, he'd been reading my books, he'd been watching my videos, so he understood my philosophy and my paradigm and, what makes me different from all the other coaches out there. And, frankly, the huge, enormous success stories that I have from people around the world. So he said, I asked him, how much do you think it's costing you? Without batting an eye, he said $1 million. He said, no, it's easily going to cost me $1 million if I don't take out my head trash in the ways that you teach. I said, Charles, it's very common. I talk to people every day who tell me their head trash is costing them $1 million, $2 million or more. So I said, why don't you just give me 10% of that million and I will find you $1 million in the next 12 months. In other words, if you give me $1 and I give you $10 back, is that a good deal? He goes, yeah, that's a good deal. So he said, let's do it. So he decided to do that. He invested $100K for coaching with me, which is 10% of $1 million, right? So I coached him for a year. Now, as it turns out, I didn't find him $1 million in the next 12 months. Instead, I found him 1.8 million in just 10 months. So he gave me $1 and I gave him $18 back. Is that a good deal? No, that's a great deal. And he actually sent me an email and he said, hey, Noah, guess what? I'm on a 7-week vacation with my wife. He said, this is a dream I've had for the last 20 years, but I never had the time or the money before. He said, now because of coaching with you, I bought a new RV. This is what my wife and I have been talking about for years. We're driving across the country. We're taking 7 weeks off and I'm making more than ever before, even while taking a 7-week vacation. So he literally said, thank you, Noah, for changing my life. So that's how powerful this really is and how much you might be holding yourself back and you don't even realize it.
Yeah, it's really powerful. One of your books talks about power habits and you actually developed a system around power habits. Can you touch upon that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yep. And I'll just hold that book up. I promise I won't hold up all 25 books. But anyway, here it is. It's called Power Habits. And you can get that on Amazon, anywhere books are sold, or powerhabitsbook.com. But yeah, so what I realized is that highly successful people are doing unconscious habits that they don't even know they're doing, number one, and therefore, number two, they can never teach it. All right, so there's tons of training on habits out there, right? We've all heard that, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and things like that, which are great. I mean, these are really great works. The problem is they're talking about conscious habits. Now, everybody listening to this program, I'm sure, is familiar with the iceberg principle of human behavior. And that is that 5% of our thoughts, behaviors, and actions are visible above the surface, right? That's like the conscious mind. That's like the 5% of the iceberg that you can see. But guess what? The vast 95% is below the surface. Well, just like the iceberg, that's the subconscious or unconscious of the human being. So imagine if you have a battle, you're going into battle, and you've got 5 guys fighting 95 guys. Who do you think is going to win that battle? The 95, right? But only every time. This is precisely why so many people have been studying all these habit stuff and they're still stuck because they're working with the 5%. What I do and what makes my coaching and training different is we're working with the 95%. We go to the subconscious. That's where these beliefs are held. Nobody's walking around thinking these things. They're not consciously aware of them, but it doesn't matter, right? And as I always say in my keynote presentations, it wasn't the part of the iceberg that they could see that sunk the Titanic. It was the part that they couldn't see that sunk the Titanic. And that's the part that's sinking most of us too.
Great stuff today. I mean, so many different resources that you have out there. Everybody that's watching this that wants to learn more from you, what action should they take? Where should they go to be able to get more ongoing help or ongoing access to what you have?
Yep. So if you go to noahstjohn.com, you can see just all the tons of resources we have. And if you want to talk about getting coaching with me or one of my coaches, go to breakthroughwithnoah.com. Easy to remember. I'm known as the Breakthrough Coach. So breakthroughwithnoah.com. And you can actually book a 15-minute breakthrough consultation. And either me or one of my coaches will walk you through a 3-step plan to actually help you break through to the next level. Right. And like I talked about, I'm known for helping people make more in 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months. So we'll actually show you exactly how to do that. So that's breakthroughwithnoah.com. And if you want to see all the different programs and resources that we have, it's noahstjohn.com.
Perfect. Noah, thanks for coming on with us today.
My pleasure.
All right, so listen, if you're watching this, make sure you go to noahstjohn.com, and that's NOAHSTJOHN.com. If you go to noahstjohn.com. There's so many things here. I mean, there's a shop with access to a lot of the resources that he has. You could talk about advising. You could be able to read more about his speaking as well. You can see those reviews. You talked about the hundreds of reviews that he has there. He's even got a learning center there as well. So there's just a lot of really good access that you're able to get. And then at the bottom of his page at noahstjohn.com, you're able to access his social media links. So make sure you follow him there to be able to get up-to-date tips, tactics, all the things that he's doing now, he puts out there on the social media. So make sure you go to noahstjohn.com, go to the bottom of the page, and you can access the social media links. But also take a minute to just go over to breakthroughwithnoah.com as well, because with Breakthrough with Noah, you're able to talk more about, putting an end to burnout and marketing guesswork and all the stuff that you're doing to fail. And you can really be able to learn more about taking a next step and actually having an actual consultation and figuring out what you could be doing to actually get that breakthrough that you need. Look, it's all about mindset. And I mean, you're hearing from the guy that's the master of mindset. He's been doing this for 30 years, released 25 different books, featured everywhere I think you could get featured that you'd want to get featured, because these are respectable sources. And he's be able to put together everything that you don't know that you need to know to be successful. So in order to get that, all you have to do is go to breakthroughwithnoah.com and make sure you also check out his other site, his main site at noahstjohn.com. Thank you very much for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day.